Today's class is gratefully dedicated by Reb Menachem and Batya Abrams in honor of their children. Mazel Yeshua, Ayala, Rafal, Tzemach, and David Gavriel. For bracha and atzlocha ad blidai. A lot of nachas with health, happiness, prosperity, and a good year for all of you. Klal Yisrael, thank you so much. Reb Menachem. Okay, so the main point that we learned after a whole introduction, after the questions on the pasuk, we had two classes, right? We learned the first perek and the second perek, the first section, the first chapter, the second chapter. So after discussing what Moshe Rabbeinu means, that the mitzvah is not eclipsed from you, it's not separated from you, and it's not distant from you, the redundancy. One refers to Maamar Ki Karov, one refers to Sovev. He explained at length what the Zohar says, that there's three knots. Torah, the Jewish people, Torah and Hashem, each one is two-dimensional. Sasim Vegalia, there's the inner part, the Sasim, the secret part, the concealed part, which represents the essence that is beyond Kalim, beyond structure. And then there's the Galia, the revealed part, which is more concrete and manifested. You have it in Hashem. One is called Mamali, one is Sovev. You have it in Torah, Nigla of Torah, and the Sasim, the Pnimius of Torah. And you have it in Yisrael also. The Mamali of Yisrael and the Sovev in the Neshama too. And each one connects with the other one. So the Sasim of Torah connects the Sasim of the Neshama to the Sasim of Hashem. The Galia of Torah connects the Galia of the Neshama to the Galia of Hashem. And that's what he says, Loid Nifleisi represents Maamar Ki Karov, that it's not separated, it's inside of you, it's your etzem. And V'lo Rechaiki is even Sovev, is not distant, it's connected to you, it shines in you, even though it's what we call Makif. From this he went on to explain what the Hayom is, HaMitzvah Zeh She'Nechi B'Tzavcha Hayom, today. Because Torah is eternal, so every day you could say today. But to explain this in a deeper way, he started to explain what the idea is. Shoshana, we say Zeh Hayom Tchilas Masach. It's the beginning of creation. Chayr, it's not. It's the anniversary of creation. That's a great thing, but the anniversary is not the beginning. The anniversary is remembering. In fact, the same statement in davening, a moment later, we say, Zayim Tchilas Masacha, Zikaron Liyam Rishon. That's more like it, Zikaron. Zikaron means it's not the beginning, it's a memory. Zikaron is a commemoration, right? Liskar, to remember. You're remembering something that happened in the past. If it's something that's happening right now, you don't have to remember. Zikaron means it's happened in the past. So which one is it? Is it Tchilas Masach or is it Zikaron Liyam Rishon? And how do you say that it's Tchilas Masach?
Also 6 days before was creation.
Right. Exactly. Adam's creation is not the beginning of creation. Adam is created on the 6th day. Rosh Hashanah celebrates the 6th day of creation, Yom HaShishi. Chazal say the world was created the 25th of Elul. And then on the 5th day, Friday, that's the Rosh Hashanah. So he explains the idea of Tchilas Masecha is that essentially reality is above time. The whole time is a creation. Hashem himself is L'mayla min Azman completely. When you say Hashem, means real reality is not in time, it doesn't exist in time. On the other hand, we only know of time. All of our existence is in time. So he says, so that means is that the whole Zman, the whole concept of time, the reality of time, of the 6 days of creation, and the 6 millennia that follow it, what's called Shit Alf Shnen. And he says, and also the Yemei Mashiach, the days of Mashiach, and Chiyas HaMeis. And in Kabbalah you have something called Nun Alafim Yovlis, 50,000 Jubilees. It's all one machshava. It's all like one thought that emanates from a source that's completely beyond time. And that's why it says, we say in davening, Rosh Hashanah, Tzoifo Mabit at Tzoif Kol HaDoros. You could see throughout all the generations, and it's Beskira Achas. Like with a scan. It's one scan. It's one ha'ara. And then from there, is Peseach Es Yadacho Masbiyah L'chol Chai. Every Chai gets Ratzin, gets a trickle from that one Ratzin that encompasses the entire experience of Zman, the entire experience of reality, which includes space and matter and time, all in the first pasuk, Bereshis, the beginning, Bara Elokim, Shmayim, Ba'aretz. So Bereshis is time, Shemayim is space, Eretz is matter. He doesn't get into this pasuk, I'm just saying it. So every chai gets from that ratzon. But it starts off with a ratzon, and then it comes in, he says, ultimately to Asara Mamaras, to the 10 utterances. Because it comes from a ratzon to a dibur, and then it comes into 10, and he gave the example by a person, Yosef, that from one machshava, afterwards, when it comes into words, it could take many, many hours and many, many words, even though the entire conversation or class or explanation or plan was condensed and it could in one machshava. And that one machshava had everything in a way of klal. And then when it comes from the klal to the prat, it goes through, it becomes manifested. L'chol chai gets their own trickle of ratzon, which is manifested in this particular creature that lives in this particular moment in time, in this particular year. The interface for this is Rosh Hashanah, which means each year gets a new tziruf of chayis. From this, so it means the energy comes from what we call Sovev Kalal, which is the sasim of Kodesh Baruch, which is completely beyond time. The journey to time, Rosh Hashanah, is that interface. For each year, it includes the collective machshava, the collective klal, that will then encompass the energy of that year. That's why it says in Tanya that we say in David, I said at Mitzvah Shabbos, I think we say in it says in Parshas Eikev, but Eretz Yisrael, that it's the land, Eretz Hashe'eni Hashem Elokecha ba mereishis hashana v'ad achris shana. The eyes of God are in Eretz Yisrael from the beginning of the year till the end of the year. So the Alter Rebbe asks in Tanya, in Igeres HaKodesh Yudalet, should have just said, Tamid, always. If your eyes are there from the beginning of the year till the end of the year, and then again from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So just say, it's always there. It says it's the pshat that at the end of the year, it's different than in the beginning of the next year. It's from the beginning of the year, then the beginning of the next year. What about the next year? It's also from the beginning to the next. So he says that the light, goes up out of Rosh Hashanah. During sunset, out of Rosh Hashanah, something happens. The light, the whole energy that was sustaining the reality of the universe as we know it and beyond of what we know, because we have our own capacity. Deeper, 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 like he says, all the way to the highest, to the lowest, but it's all the one machshava that all goes up by Shkia, by sunset out of Rosh Hashanah. That's why it says the Kabbalah it's brought, Chassidus is brought, that the night of Rosh Hashanah is a very, it's tense, it's also shaky, like there's a flimsiness. Then he says, by Tkiyas, Rosh Hashanah, Tfilas, and Tkiyas of Rosh Hashanah, the new Ohr comes down through the Tfilas and the Tkiyas. And he says that it's an Ohr Chadash, or Mechudash, it's a new light, that this light never existed in the universe before. Never. There was never such an Ohr. That's why it's made Eishes Hashanah Vad Achar Shana. So that's what he says here in this Maamar. That since Adam was created on Rosh Hashanah, and Adam encompasses the DNA of creation, so to speak, the Nishmas Chayim of creation is Adam. So Mela on Rosh Hashanah, that represents this life force that comes in, and then from there it trickles down and it's manifested to every Rosh Chodesh, every month, which is also called the head of the month. This is the head of the year, this is the head of the month. The word head is not just a euphemism, but it's a real description. Rosh Hashanah, the head, like the function of the head. There's nothing that goes into the body that doesn't exist first in the brain. And if it wouldn't be in the brain, it couldn't exist in the body. So just like you have neurology within the human spirit, you have neurology within time, so to speak. The brain of the year, Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Chodesh is the brain of the month. And that's the pshat in the Gemara, Ba'kesel Yom Chageinu, that the definition of Rosh Hashanah is the day when Rosh Chodesh is eclipsed, when the new moon is eclipsed, when the new month is eclipsed, because it's the only holiday that's in the beginning of the month. Why is that so important? Because he says that's the whole Nekuda. The Nekuda is that the whole Nekuda of Zman, represented by Chodesh, that's the cycle of time of each month, is completely eclipsed in Rosh Hashanah, like the ray of the sun inside of the sun, in the place of L'mayla min Hazman. So the Rosh Hashanah can take me to that space that's beyond time. So the Mela, it's B'kesel Yom Chageinu. The whole fluid, the whole flow of time is B'kesel. It's eclipsed. Not that it's not there. All the words that come out of the Machshava are there in the Machshava. And the Machshava itself was also there in the beginning, but before there was a beginning. But the point is that it's B'kesel. It's like the ray of the sun in the solar core. And therefore the life force of each year is not the same like the previous year. Every Rosh Hashanah is a new tziruf, a new ha'ara from the makar, from the source, which he calls soiviv. And it's a chayis klali for the whole year. Then, and that's why it's zeh tchilas masach. He says, nasa ha'ara chadasha, nasa ha'ara mechadash mehaklal. There's a whole new ha'ara from the klal, which is beyond time. So it's hayom, it's taka hayom. And every year is a new chiyus. Then he said the same thing as Torah. It says, Torah is also beyond time. And the journey from beyond time to time also, it has to go through a hishtalshlus to come into time. And every day there's a new light that comes from Torah to come into the time. That's why we say Noisena Torah in the present, which is also a hafla d'kavod, that every day there's a new ha'ara from the Torah that's l'mayla min hazman to come in. So that's why you make a new bracha, brichas at Torah, and you say Noisein. Right now he's giving the Torah, even though the Torah was given a very long time ago. And that's why there can always be new chidushim in Torah. You can always reveal new, it's already, how deep are you going to go? If you look at it as just, it's a document, here it is, now this one understands more, this one understands less. But if you understand be'etzim, you're talking about something l'mayla min hazman. So the whole process is a chiddush of hayom. It's hayom. Today there's a new gilui that you can access. It's tuning into a new frequency, an electromagnetic field of Torah. That's why different generations, they can tune into different aspects of Torah that they didn't tune in before. That's nice in Torah. The same is true by the Jewish people. We're talking about three things. Chadashim lapkarim rabba munasecha. He says emunah is not an old thing. Every day there's a new flow of emunah. Rabba emunah secha, the emunah from Rabba, which is Soiv of Kalalman, as we said, the source of everything. There's a new flow. He says every day one can acquire in their soul and needs to acquire in their soul emunah chadasha, a new emunah. That was the main. I mean, we explained it a little more at length, but that was the main Indian. If somebody wants to know more, you can go back and listen. So now let's go back. Let's go right to Pedig Bais. The flow of emunah into the soul of a person happens on two dimensions. As we said, every soul has galia and sasim. The more concrete part, that's called the mamale of the soul, and the soiviv, which is the sasim. So this flow of emunah, which is also beyond time. It's a relationship with something that's beyond time, every single day anew. It's hayom. Because the whole concept of hayom has to be recreated every day. It's not just every day is something new. When you understand that be'etzim reality is beyond time, for there to be hayom, that is the chiddush. So it's not just it happens today. Today also happens today. It's not just, when we look at time, it's so fixed. Oh yeah, it's already old. The whole concept of time is today. Because from a place of l'mayla min hazman, zman is a chiddush, it's a novelty. So don't take, he says, time for granted. And don't take l'mayla min hazman for granted. So there's a new flow. As he says, when a person looks at the world and they study, he says, tmidim kisidron, how it works. And you don't take it for granted. You understand that this is a hamshaka that's coming from l'mayla min hazman. But every day there's a new emunah. Every day there's a new frequency you tune into. And yesterday's emunah won't work for today. Just like yesterday's oxygen doesn't work for today. Just like yesterday's energy is not for today. I'm living in old energy, which doesn't exist. So he says, this flow in the soul exists on two levels, Mamale and Sefer. What's Pshat? Mamale, and this is what the Zohar means, that the soul operates on two dimensions. There's the Galia of the Neshama, and there's the Sasim of the Neshama. Mamale nikrish mislabish v'nitfis b'moiche hasagas alakus. Mamale is that in the person's mind, there's nitfis, there's grasped and manifested an awareness of godliness. So he says, mislabish v'nitfis b'moicha, just like when something fills something physically, it fills it. Spiritually, when it fills it, it means it becomes its identity, it becomes part of it. That's what it means, it fills it. So that the person really contains, you become a container of it, it defines you. And that's what mamale always means. It's the energy that defines you because it's commensurate with your kalim, with your structure, so it can define you. The keli says, yeah, this is who I am. I am a vessel for this. I am a container. Physically, it's two things. Here it's not two separate things. The divine doesn't fill the world. The world is the divine energy, but it's in a way that the identity of the world bespeaks it, could manifest. It's one with you. Like when you understand something really well, it's like food, right? The Torah is in my womb, in my stomach. So the Rebbe says it becomes like food. Food doesn't remain aloof. No, it's transformed into your bloodstream. Now it's you. What it's when we are what we eat is not cliche. You are what you eat, quite physically. If it becomes the blood, hadam hu hanefesh, the blood is the soul, the nutrients and the oxygen. It goes into every cell. That's the food. That's why food has such an impact on people, in a positive or. Some people blame all the problems of our times on food, or the food that we eat. So Mamali is mislabish v'nitfes b'meiche b'hasagas halukus. K'moshe Kasov, on this the pasuk says, right after Ki Karov Elecha, Moshe says, u'bacharta b'chayim la'avas Hashem ki hu chayecha. There's two paths. There's the path of good and the path of bad. And there's life and death. And he says, Re'ei nasati lefanecha sachayim v'satei v'samavis v'sara. So he says afterwards, choose life. And he says, what is that? La'avas Hashem alakecha ki hu chayecha, because he's your life. So he says, ki abchire b'seichel levad. Bchire always requires, the person has awareness. Bchire happens in seichel. The person has to be able to have awareness of two choices and make a choice. Livcher b'tov v'limis b'ra. So Moshe says, I want you to choose life, v'limos, and reject, from the word mos, limos, reject, be repulsed by ira, by toxicity. Va'avahu b'leiv. Love is not awareness. Love is experiential. Love is a sensation. Love is biology. Love is in the heart. We're not talking about love, an idea of love. That's not love. Love is that you can actually feel the sensation where the heart expands. Right? You know, when you're feeling love, or the opposite, you're feeling fear or negativity or anxiety, you could feel it in the body. Unless if somebody's chas v'shalom disassociated, which is one of the traumas of many people, they disassociate very young because things are too painful. So if you don't feel, you could be more safe in a world that's very dangerous. And then we do everything in our mind. And sometimes Judaism could become a toxic crutch for this because it's so intellectual. So you could navigate religion and God through the mind without the heart. And it works. It says v'haftas Hashem alakecha, so it means whatever. You have to understand things. Everything is through understanding. So he says that's not the vart. There's the union of seichel, but the ava is believe. It's an experience in the heart, and that you could physically feel it. You feel a warmth, you feel an expansiveness, you feel a silence, you feel a tenderness, you feel a softness. The Olam knows what I'm talking about, yeah? Huh? I should ask, the Olam feels what I'm talking about or knows what I'm talking about? This Olam, okay. If this Olam feels it, so it's there's different frequencies in the world, you know. There's the frequency of fear, there's the frequency of shame. There's also a frequency of disassociation, although I never saw that, but I was mechadash it. But there's a frequency, it's a very low frequency because there's nothing happening. But it's also a frequency because it exists. If it exists, there's a frequency of fear, of guilt, of shame. Then there's a frequency of love. There's a frequency of surrender. There's a frequency of trust. These are frequencies that you could tune into. They're real frequencies, you know. So he says, Chadashim lapkarim rabba munasecha. Every day, I need to again tune into the frequency of beyond time. That's the real, because that's where the source is. That's reality. Bereshis is the chiddush, but I live in time. So it's literally a flow from Lamaylam and Azman and Tizman. That's the whole idea of Rosh Hashanah, Ayom. It's the whole idea of Nois and Atayra, and it exists in every soul too. But here he's going to talk about two elements. Mamali is the way it fills me. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu says. Choose life, which means love God, ki hu chayecha, because he's your life. So he says, Bchir is in Seichel, Ava is believe. V'abchire koydem la'ava. And the choice precedes the love. Because a person needs to be able to cultivate the right awareness, to train the mind What's the right thought process? She should become a conviction, like from the word haskama. Should become a conviction, choose life. Kemaimer, as Moshe says, right? He says, esachayim v'esatoyev, life and good, and death and evil. Ubacharta b'chayim. What does he mean, choose life? It doesn't just mean choose life over death. Everybody wants to choose life. I mean, even an insect. Insects know to the best of their ability, right? Sometimes even better than people. They have this survival instinct. They don't need Moshe Rabbeinu to tell you choose life. The way God created every single organism in the world, even the smallest bush, it will choose life. It will do anything. It will do anything. You know, you see the leaves on the tree, how they compete, and each one gets its space to get the sun for to be able to have the photosynthesis. You need sunlight to be able to have to live. It's called photosynthesis. Every leaf gets its sun. This is a natural embedded need, an instinct in every single living organism to live. Moshe Rabbeinu never told him to put on tefillin, never told trees to put on tefillin, he never told lions to put on tefillin. But when it comes to life, he says, "Ubacharta b'chayim," choose life. Who doesn't want to choose life? So the Rebbe says what pshat is, "Ubacharta b'chayim shu hachayis shel shamayim va'aretz shanu rohim v'loy livcher begashmi ashen kol tanuga elam haza akolav v'nifzet shenikra mavas." In every nekuda of the world, there's the life of it and there's the death of it. The death of it is that part that's never going to last. It's just going to decompose at the end. That's the death. Even now it's dead. The fact that it's going to be dead in 10 years, and 20 years, and 100 years means now it's dead. Ubacharta b'chayim, you should tune into the frequency of life and everything. To find the nekuda of chayim, what really makes it alive, that's what you're looking for. You're looking at a piece of food, don't look at the dead part of the food, look at the living part of the food. Then you'll already know what to eat too. In everything there's a chiyus in it. Everything has a chayus. Everything, from coffee beans, right? From coffee beans to an egg, to any food, to any nekuda. Whether it's money, whether it's clothes, whether it's a home. Ubacharta b'chayim, the chiyus of shamayim and aretz shanu rohim. Don't fall prey to the counterfeit bliss of the superficial element, because it's always going to be disappointing. It's kolav and nifset. It's called mavas because it's on its way to deteriorate. And this exists on so many different levels, right? Am I looking for the nutritious value of it that will give me life, or just as a distraction for my taste buds to be able to numb my anxiety? Everybody knows, one, the bliss will continue. If it's rooted in life, there's a pleasure before, in middle, and after. If it's a pleasure rooted in death, it's always a distraction for 10 minutes, maybe 20 minutes, maybe a day, maybe a week. If you know what you're doing as a good addict, a year, but then boom, it's done. It's be'etzem mavas. Why is it be'etzem mavas? Because it's be'etzem a distraction from life. It's not life. It's not bringing you to life. So when there's this type of awareness of the b'chirin toiv, which is life, yizbayin love lebchinas ava k'mesha kasav mezeh b'dash ma'yisol ki hu chayecha shehu achayim ha'amitim k'mesha kasav kimcha mekar chayim. So la'avas Hashem alekecha ki hu chayecha, the only real life is the source of all life, which is the life of everything and of everybody. So there is a profound love over there. When a person gets this and they're opened up to it with real awareness, so the heart responds to this. This is prat mamale. It's a love that's enclosed, it's manifested, channeled through the person in their soul. That's what we say, with your heart and with all your heart and all your soul. The heart and the nefesh become conduits, channels, containers for this type of love. So what's the definition of Avas Hashem here? Moshe Rabbeinu says, why do you love God? Ki hu chayecha, this is life, this is your life. And a person loves the source of life. There's a pleasure, there's a joy in being a channel for that and connecting to that. You say, why? What's the pleasure here? So fine, here's your life. What if I don't like my life? But the truth is that when you say, La'avas Hashem Elokecha Kihu Chayecha, this life force is the source of all goodness. It's the source of bliss. It's the source of pleasure. So when a person is in touch with this frequency, there's an element of joy just because of experiencing this flow of life. That is the love. There is a la'avas Hashem Elokecha. He says, Kihu Chayecha. This is your life. But for this I have to choose life. In other words, in every nekuda of life, I have to choose what part of it am I choosing. I have to choose which aspect of it am I embracing. And that's a constant awareness. That's what he says. The person needs the hisbainus, to have the bchira, in order to be able to have the ava. Because if I choose the side of it that's mavis, that's death chas v'shalom, I'm not b'charta b'chayim, then it's impossible to experience the la'avas Hashem Elokecha Kihu Chayecha. I'm not choosing the frequency of life that's flowing through me. I'm going away from that. So the b'charta b'chayim allows it to be la'avas Hashem Elokecha Kihu Chayecha, because that is Chayecha. And this is all the mamali of the soul, meaning the way the soul can experience it. This is something that a person can actually experience in their bloodstream, in their consciousness, it's their life force that you could experience. It's like when you're really feeling alive. There's life cruising and flowing through you, and you're aligned with it. I'm connected with it. It's always about full presence, because what happens is the mind captures us or hijacks us and wants to take us everywhere else, like we spoke, besides Hayom, besides presence. The mind is very good at that, because I'm looking for control. I don't want this to be in touch with the source of life is very vulnerable, because it's not me. I'm not in control of it. I'm just in touch with the source of life. I'm not God. So it's a very vulnerable moment. The mind would rather control everything. It makes you God. It makes me God. In our own brain, we become God-like, deities. So if I figure it all out, I could have an illusion of being in control. But this real love is not control. Real love is vulnerability. It's full presence and actually experiencing the joy of the reality, the energy of the moment, the joy of the other person, the presence. So it's a very, very vulnerable state of surrender. But it's a surrender to what? To the source of life, Kihu Chayecha. So when we speak about Avos Hashem, loving Hashem, the way the Alter Rebbe explains it here, it's really the same thing as loving life. That's what he says, Ubacharta b'chayim, which means La'avos Hashem Elokecha Kihu Chayecha. It's really loving life. That's also real self-love. It's all the same thing. Avos Hashem, V'avos Hashem Elokecha means to love the self, the real self, the self that is a channel for life. The self that is a manifestation of the divine light. It's not different. It's not like a contradiction, because this is not narcissistic. It's not, I love myself at the expense of everybody else. It's the contrary. The real self-love is loving the self that is true. In the self also there's the death. There's the self that's dead already now. It's also going to die, but it's dead now because it's going to die. And then there's the self that's truly alive. Whenever a person experiences life on this frequency level, meaning when a person is open to the flow of Hashem that flows literally through them every single moment, that's the Maamar Ki Karov. And it always comes. He says a person needs to be able to have control over their mind, because again, the mind goes everywhere. It's hard for it to go here, because this is a very, very conscious, it's a very conscious state, it's a vulnerable state. So if the mind could take me into a more frozen state where everything is controlled, I feel like I have control. When a person goes to this place, there is a natural expansion of the heart. There's an experience of Ava in the Lev. And there's a bliss over there. What's the bliss? The bliss is that you're channeling the source of life, which is full of bliss and goodness and pleasure. And it doesn't need explanations. It's not because something good is going to happen now, or I'm going to entertain myself, or I'm going to distract myself. All other forms of bliss are essentially occupying me not to feel my anxiety. So now I'm on my phone, now I watch a movie, now I watch a clip, now I eat something, now I go here, I go there. I'm running from life. This is the idea, no, go into life. Don't run, you don't have to run from anything. The greatest thing is happening right now. Kihu chayecha. Can you be in touch with that? You'll see this is very hard for people to get in touch with. You could try it out. As I told you last time, after the Shia, you could sit for a few minutes and try to be fully present without the brain going anywhere. It's it's one of the hardest things for people. You have to think this, you do this, you take the phone. Baruch Hashem, we have a phone. Before people had phones, they just used their brains. The brains were better. But the brain, it'll go anywhere. Thoughts about this. Everyone has responsibilities and pressures and anxieties, and there's things to think about, and Rosh Hashanah is coming, and there's plans, and there's days, there's work. So Baruch Hashem, you can always go there. And sometimes it's even holy. It looks like holy stuff. But to really to be able to be present, a lot of things come up. A lot of things will come up. But to really know that, if Shvili Nivra Olam, Hashem created this moment, for me, and the deepest thing is to have a relationship with the truth at this moment, like this is where it's at. So that's this awareness that he's talking about, ubacharta b'chayim, which then can allow la'avas Hashem alakecha kihu chayecha, and this is called mamale kalalma. What's pshat mamale? This is something that the soul can actually feel in its kalim, b'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshecha. Then he says, "Ubchinis soiviv, hu b'chol ubchinis b'chol moedecha l'mayla me'aklishu aseichel." Then there's b'chol moedecha, different love. This is the soiviv frequency of the soul. It's l'mayla me'akeli. It's beyond the container, and the container is always seichel, because when I understand something, I'm containing it. Al derech ze gam b'tshuva yesh beis b'chinis. There's tshuva tata, tshuva lo. Tshuva tata, the lower level of tshuva, is connected to mamale. Tshuva, the higher, is connected to seven. How can there even be avoid in the level of soiviv, which is beyond sechel? Mamale is already hard enough to understand. But mamale is all about your experience of the flow of life that God is sending through you. So I understand that. You're a channel for it. It's really flowing through, like really tuning in to the chiyus that's flowing through me. And again, I want to explain. This is a hard thing. It's a hard thing because we're not trained with this. We're trained with much more distractions. Some of the distractions are healthy. Some distractions are unhealthy. Some distractions can bring you closer. Ultimately, some not. But it's distractions. This is really kihu chayecha, la'avas Hashem alakecha kihu chayecha. You don't have another life. It's not like there's God and there's you. It's not two separate things. This is you, kihu chayecha. And in every nekuda you look for the alakus, because that's the chiyus of it, that's the pnimius of it. So it's full presence to every moment, to the authentic reality of the universe and of myself and of anybody I come in contact with. And that's going to translate, when the person is open to this, to a very real experience of love. The question is, Soiviv Kalam and Lamayla Menasechel, what's that frequency in the soul? What is that? B'chol Moedecha, not B'chol Avavcha. It says, Acha'inyin hu ayidei tshuva b'mesiris nefesh shu Lamayla Mehadas. There's a different type of tshuva. This is called Mesiris Nefesh, which is beyond Das, K'may shekasav b'makam acher shalachein loy nemer b'toyde tam al Mesiris Nefesh. K'may shenemer tam al Ava, k'diksiv la'avas Hashem alakecha ki yuchayecha. In Torah, there's never said a reason for Mesiris Nefesh, for surrendering, for giving your soul to God, just like it says a reason for loving Him. Moshe says in Nitzavim, love Him because He's your life. Ki, it's a reason. It's a very good reason. if there's something to love, it's la'avas Hashem alakecha ki hu chayecha. This is your life. This is the only thing. This is the only thing that's alive. In fact, loving everything else, you're not really loving anything because it doesn't exist. It looks like it exists, doesn't really exist. And the part of it that even looks like it exists is also going to deteriorate when it's divorced from that source. Somebody says, I love chocolate, right? So there's a selection, but then you find out that all the other chocolates are made of plastic. They just look like chocolate. You know, they have these designs, chocolate. So then it's a no-brainer. There's only one source of chocolate. This looks like chocolate. So for Avos Hashem, he gives a reason. La'avos Hashem alakecha ki hu chayecha. This is the only thing to really love. Everything else is going to be a distraction from love. Why? Because it's not part of the source, it's not the chayas, it's mavis. You want to choose life. So there's a reason. On Mesidus Nefesh, there's no reason in Torah. So the Alter Rebbe says, Amayre de Kavart. V'hainu lefi sha'ah v'nimshechem b'bchinas seichel v'tam k'derech ishtalshelus. Masheken al Mesidus Nefesh lo nemar tam lefi sholem ayla me'aseichel. V'u b'chinas emunah sholem ayla me'adas shenimsheches b'bchinas soivev. For the Ava, al pi seichel, you can give a reason. Because it's a result of a reason. That's what he says. The Ava could be given because it comes from a place of tam, like Ishtalshelus. Mesidus Nefesh is from L'mayla min ha-seichel. So you can't give a reason in seichel for Mesidus Nefesh when the whole existence of it is something that's beyond seichel. So in Torah, you're never going to have a reason for Mesidus Nefesh. Say, why? Because. You already lost the plot. This is not a why, this is not a because. It's a relationship that's deeper than a why and a because. That's what he says. This is called emunah, and this comes from Seiv of Kalalman. It's a whole different inyan. In other words, there's those things that seichel can explain and therefore justify and invite. And the more seichel, the more awareness, the more experience of it. The more awareness and tuning into this, the more ava. And that's when you give a reason. You explain somebody, and the reason explains it. When you have something that's lechatchila beyond the world of seichel, so now to use seichel, to use intellect or analysis in order to question it, to prove it, to refute it, to bring it into your life, it's a no-starter. The whole mitzvah is l'mayla menasech. The whole reality is l'mayla menasech. So seichel doesn't make it stronger, a question doesn't make it weaker, an answer doesn't make it stronger. The whole mitzvah of it, it's a relationship that's beyond seichel. Seichel is also a creation. Seichel is part of ishtalshelus. This is completely beyond. That's the seivav of the soul. The seivav of the soul is that there's a relationship, a frequency between the infinity of God that is beyond time that the soul experiences. So you'll say, but why do you have this relationship? I don't know what you're talking.
It's not rational.
It's not rational.
It's more irrational.
Huh?
It's
Super rational.
or
Super rational, I would call it. You have something irrational that's stuck as stupid, like stay away from it. Like that's called emunah lamata me'aseichel. Here he says it's l'mayla min haseichel. Emunah shelamayla me'adas. In other words, how do you know the difference? If it's afraid of das, it's usually lower than das. Here it's not afraid of das. It just das won't do it. I could use das, use seichel as much as you want, but then there's a point where you got to graduate. You want to touch the essence of reality. It's like seichel could take you to a certain place. But then there's a door where seichel stops, says, sorry, I can't go through this door. It's not, it's either too big, I can't go walk through this door. You know, yeah, it's like you got to go with a different frequency. I don't have it, I'm sorry, I don't know about this. That's a healthy seichel. A healthy seichel, we go to extremes. Either seichel is tameh or seichel is God. No, a healthy seichel is no, it's not tameh and it's not God. It's a tremendous aspect. It's like a frequency of energy. It's a frequency of God. And it could take me to certain places that are very, very deep. And then it says, At kana kofa aleph. I don't know what to tell you. This is beyond my pay grade. I shut down here because I need to contain things. I need to control things. I need to understand things. I don't have what to say here. Sorry. I did what I can. I served my purpose. Now you have to tune into a completely different frequency. And this is a complete surrender that comes from L'mayla min hadas. This is what's called emunah. Emunah is not threatened by seichel. Why should it be threatened? It's l'mayla ben seichel. It's completely beyond seichel. And this is what's called sovev kalam. This is the relationship of the nefesh to l'mayla ben azman, to beyond time. This is the sasim that we're speaking about. The sasim of Kutchabrichu that connects to the sasim of the neshama. The first madrege, Maamar Ki Karov, is also very, very deep. It's also pretty infinite. But here you're talking in terms of the structure of the soul. Sovev kalam transcends any structure and therefore transcends seichel. That's why in Mesiras Nefesh there's no tam, because there's no tam for Mesiras Nefesh when the whole thing originates in a place that's l'mayla min seichel. After the brackets, a few lines of brackets. And that's the ma'ila the Gemara says, Bali tshuva stand where tzaddikim can't stand. Because as he said before, the inyan of tshuva, real tshuva, is l'mayla min adas. Achlahavin ta'amadavar, to explain this, the reason for this, the pasuk says, Ani rishon v'ani acher. I am the first, I am the last. Uksiv b'dvar Hashem shemayim nasu. The pasuk also says in Tehillim that the heaven was created through the word of God. Pirush shabriya hi aidei dibur. The bria comes through speech. Uksiv b'reishis bara elikim shabriya yesh meyayin. It also says the bria is bara. Bara means something from nothing. The creation of the world is not just an evolution from one cause to an effect, cause to effect. Hamidis mehaseichel, v'adibur mehamidis, hu derech ishtalshlus, shadei hamidin nasa hevel alev, v'achar kach koel v'dibur, shadibur nimshach me'akoel, v'akoel v'chule, akoel b'derech hamshach v'ishtalshlus ila v'ala. By a person you see there's something called ila v'ala, a cause and an effect, like a mother and a child, and then the child becomes a mother, and that child becomes a mother, etc. Midas come from seichel, they're connected. In other words, awareness. When a person's seichel is, there's different parts of seichel. In other words, when you're in a place of my amygdala, what's called a neuroscience, which is survival, that's not seichel, that's a person's survival. Then a person can't feel. Like if you're feeling danger, if there's a lion in the room, or there's a fire chas v'shalom, the way God made the system is the amygdala of the brain alerts you to danger, and it shuts down the prefrontal cortex or our ability for analyzing. What happens is the blood now is flowing faster, the heartbeat is going faster, you become much more uptight because you're about to fight a lion, because you're facing danger. So then there's not going to be a flow to midas fakir. Then we're in a mode where we're very, very focused, hyper vigilant on danger. That's it. So the whole body system tunes into that. And that's not a time for love and emotion. On the contrary, you're not capable. And that's why those of us who didn't shut down this danger fire alarm that maybe started when we were 4 years old, it's still very hard to feel because I'm always triggered by things because everything could be dangerous. For there to be a midah, there has to be seichel. Seichel today is called the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex is the part of the brain. The brain has different parts, right? There's the nefesh chiyunis, nefesh bahamis, nefesh sichlis, and tanya. So you have the stem of the brain is good for danger. And then you have the limbic brain, you have what's prefrontal cortex. That's where, when you're in a regulated state, the body feels safe, it can actually experience awareness. And that awareness in a calm state can then it will translate into midas. It will translate into a sensation in the body, which is either love or awe or another frequency of emotion. So seichel will come to midas. From the midas, there'll come dibur. And it's derech ishtalshlus, it's even physically, because the midah is a sensation in the heart, and that creates a hevel halev, a breath in the heart. And the dibur comes from the koil, which comes from the hevel halev. So this is all an evolutionary process, ilu v'ala. By the creation of the world, you can't say it was just an evolutionary process. Why? Shemayim yihi rakiya eine erech shel hamayim sheyi nimshach imenu rakiya. She'af ribuy levavis tzimtzumim v'yishtalshus madrega lemadrega derech ilu v'ala lo ya'ilu sheyishtalshtul v'yishava. Chaymer gashmi afilu kamay chaymer rakiya meishtalshtus aruchnes. Even through myriads of tzimtzumim and ishtalshtus from level to level, you're not going to have that the physical material, even of the heavens, which is much more subtle, should come physically from the spiritual. In other words, the quantum leap from the divine utterance, Yehi Rakiya, and the physical world, it's quantum. It's not one that evolves naturally because it's like an infinite leap. This is the koyach of the Ein Sof, that the utterance, Yehida Kiyah, can create something physical. Yesh me'ayin. That's why it's called Yesh me'ayin. Yesh me'ayin is not Ilav Alul. Ilav Alul is the cause has an effect. You know, the seed of an apple tree produces an apple tree. In the seed, you have the blueprint of the entire tree. It's dormant, but it's there. And it develops. That's called Yesh me'yesh. And then the apple produces a seed which will produce another apple tree. So in the first seed, you already have all the future apple trees. That's called Ilav Allah. But the leap from the Maamar Yehida Kiyah, from Elikus to the Gashmi, that's Yesh me'ayin. It's called something from nothingness, from no-thingness. Because even if you take the divine energy of Rakiyah and it descends and it descends and it evolves over, he says, myriads and myriads and myriads of levels, you're not going to have from it naturally the Gashmi come out of it. This is a quantum leap that the Ein Sof can leap over and say, from this utterance, something physical will come out. So it's called Yesh B'yayin. This is called a leap. וכן כל הנברואים מהבורא הוא מעין ולא דרך השתלשלות. כי אי אפשר נמשך בחינס נברא גם בחינס חכמה שלהם, אפילו מבחינס דיבור של המעלה, שהוא בחינס הסגלוס של המעלה, שהבורא הוא היפך הנברואים. Even the highest level of human consciousness, chachma, can't even come naturally from God's dibur, which is his projection, which is the lowest level, which is the revelation. Because ha-boirei hu hepech ha-nevrayim. An expression. Boirei is Ein Sof. Nivra is defined. So even the lowest projection of Ein Sof could produce Ein Sof. So even the chachma of the nivra, which is the highest level of consciousness, is not through a natural level. It's an union of yesh me'ayin. There's a quantum leap to get from Ein Sof into a created, even certainly the physical, but even the spirituality of man, the spirituality of the highest level of awareness, chachma, is called yesh me'ayin. Something from nothing, from no thing. Because the source in its world is called ayin. Unlike ilav alul, where you can identify the tree in the seed, and you can identify the seed in its source. It has what's called an antecedent, it's called. Everything has an antecedent, a source. That's the ilah. And the ilah comes from a previous one. Right? What is a source? My mother was a daughter. And her mother was a daughter. And then the daughter becomes a mother, right? This seed was a child of an apple. And then this seed becomes the source of a new tree, etc., etc. It's all ilav Allah. But a bria is not that way. Bria is a nekuda of yesh me'ayin. Yesh, from what? Me'ayin. What do you mean me'ayin? A seed is not ayin. A seed is a source. Here you're calling it ayin. Why? Why is God called ayin? He doesn't exist? Because legabi the yesh, it's a quantum leap. Where do I come from? Right? That's why an apple tree can't be an atheist. Because it looks, I know I came from the seed. By a person, because it's taka ayin, it's Ein Sof, so I came from myself. Where did that tipshus come in, people? Because yesh me'ayin. Because taka ayin. Yitaka didn't come from anywhere. You understand? It's a true, Yitaka didn't come from anywhere. In your world, you came from nowhere. You're right. It's called nowhere. It's called nothing. If you had seichel, you understood that nothing means no thing. It's more something than you think. It's just no thing. But in your world, yeah, I came from nowhere. Where did I come from? Ein Sof, I don't know what you're talking about. It doesn't exist. Give me a seed, then I'll tell you I came from there. We're looking for tangibility. You understand? It's not tangible. Even spirituality. Our spirituality is yesh me'ayin. Ha-boirei hu hepech ha-nevrayim. It's a psavart. Boirei and nivra, it's a completely different, it's an opposite in you. Opposite. Not different, opposite. So in the world of the nivra, it's ayin. It's all no thing. We call no thing nothing. Because I don't know what no thing is. And whenever our brain doesn't know something, it stops existing. That's the funny thing. So how do I deal with no thing? I don't say it's no thing. I say it's nothing. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not comfortable with no thing. What's no thing? Give me a seed. I need a seed. Give me a blueprint. Give me DNA. Give me something. Make it abstract. I don't care, but give me something. Don't tell me no thing.
Physics, they do. Because they have matter and antimatter.
Antimatter.
They don't know what it is. They cannot measure it. They cannot do anything with it.
Yeah.
They realize there is a presence of it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise nothing would work.
Right.
Dark matter. Big part is spirit.
Antimatter, yeah.
What's the point?
The Pshalom, what?
What's the point to say the Shtalshalos if we need Hashem to create everything here? So what does you say the Shtalshalos do?
Oh, very good, very good. So what's the point of Ishtalshalos Ebazah? Excellent question. 1 second. So even the Chachma of the Nivra is an inyan of Yesh Mayayin. It's not through Ishtalshalos. Even the Dibur Shalamayla, meaning the revelation, his galus of Ein Sof, it doesn't evolve into Chachma in a gradual, incremental way, as he calls it Ilaval. It's an inyan of Yesh Mayayin. Va'afilu gamal is havas Chachma ila me Ein Sof baruch hu nemar va'achachma me ayin timotze. Even Chachma ila, meaning divine wisdom, from Ein Sof, the pasuk says in Eiv, Chachma emerges from Ayin. Shafilu liyis nimshich b'chinas and chakim v'la b'chachma yediyah. Hainu islapshus ein Sof b'chachma eini b'chinas shtalshalos. Here's the biggest chiddush. Even the emergence of Hashem's Chachma, we say in Zohar it says, and chakim, you're wise, but not b'chachma yediyah. This is in Pasuk Aliyah, the introduction to Tikkun Zohar. Some people say it on Friday, some people say it every morning. This is in Pasuk Aliyah. It says, Ant chakim v'la b'chachma yediyah. You're wise, you have chachma, but not the known chachma. In other words, what I call chachma, you call chachma, that's not the chachma, because it's completely beyond. It says, even that's meyayin. Even for the Ein Sof to become chachma, God's chachma, not my chachma, which is infinite chachma. It's the source of all the chachma. That's also what meyash meyayin. That's also it. Why? Even a definition, you're saying it's not our chachma, it's la b'chachma yedi, we can't even relate to it. But you're giving it a name chachma, it's already yesh me'ayin. It's from ayin, you call it ayin. Why is it ayin? Why is God ayin? God ayin means because in the world of the nivra there's no boire. It's ayin, because no thing is nothing. So even chachma.
Why are we even discussing that? So we cannot comprehend it. We cannot even have a hasoga.
Well, one second, let's see. So whenever you see in Kabbalah and Sfarim Hishtalshalos, Hishtalshalos is the word Shalshelis. There's rings, there's a chain. Ila and Elul. Ila is the antecedent, and Elul is the offspring, what comes from the Ila. It's not about Nivrayim from the Boire. Kiyim b'Hishtalshalos ruach habehem b'nei shersha b'merkava. I'll tell you where it is. When you want to talk about the energy of an animal, you have to know the energy of an animal, the consciousness of an animal came from the consciousness of the angels in Maaseh Merkava. The face of the ox that Yecheskel saw in his chariot, in the chariot, that evolved into the consciousness of an ox down here. The face of the lion evolves. That is Ishtalshalos. Mashekin b'ishavus hagashmi is mamash. But the gashmi of the ox, the gashmi of the shor, that's yesh meyayin. V'chim b'savas haruchnis mein sof baruch hu yesh meyayin mamash. K'mo shekosov kol zeh b'geres hakodesh dibur hamaschal iyu v'chayai. In other words, once the creation process happens, now there's ishtalshalos. Like he said before, seichel, midas, machshava, dibur, midas, dibur, mais, etc. It's all ilah v'olah. It's a process. It's like a flow, with a domino effect. One comes from the other, one is born from the other. There could be blockages. But when there's no blockages, there's a flow. So if my prefrontal cortex is online, it's not offline, so there could be awareness that's communicated to the body will respond. When a person is regulated, they call it when you are in the nervous system is in a parasympathetic state, which means it's regulated, it's calm. So the prefrontal is online, the prefrontal cortex. I'm not feeling uptight and danger. I'm not triggered. I'm not overwhelmed. So then there can actually be an emotion. Seichel will come into Midas. Midas will produce it. That's all ilavala. That's all in Hishtalshalos. But from Boire to Nivra, here it's an inyan of Yesh Meyayin. Even the utterances of God, Yehi Rakia, Yehi Ur, Nasa Adam, that's divine energy. For divine energy to translate into a physical sun, a physical moon, a physical fish, a physical bird, that's Yesh Meyayin. Even deeper, he says, even Ruchniyas, to come from Ein Sof is also Yesh Meyayin. Not only the Gashmi from the Ein Sof, even the Ruchni from the Ein Sof. Because the Ein Sof is as far as it is from Gashmi, it's equally far from Ruchniyas. Even Chachma, Ilah, is called Yesh Meyayin. No, this is even Mamale. The Mamale is also Ein Sof. Even for Mamale.
So it's only from our perspective that there's an Indian of Shtalshalos?
No, we'll soon see. He's going to finish the Indian, I'll be clear.
When you're talking about you have
Oh, so that's the question. When you say Chelik Alakami Mal, what are we talking about? So that's going to be the conclusion here. Let's see another few. He's going to get to it. V'zel, this is Pshat Ani Rishon and Ani Acher. The Navi says, I'm first and I'm last. Pirush. Shaliyas Yishavas Reishis HaYishavas HaNuchach Melo Shalaya Adei Shnatshlos El Vachachma Me'ayin Timotze. V'zel Ani Rishon Ani Oisis Ayin. The word Ani is the same letters of Ayin. Ani is Aleph Nun Yud. I. Ani Ayin is no thingness. Ayin. Ani Oisis Ayin. So Ani Rishon, for there to be Rishon, which is the beginning of creation, which is Chachmei Law, which is the blueprint for all of creation, is the divine wisdom. That didn't happen through Ishtalshlos, it happened through Ayin, HaChachmei Ayin Timatze. So it's Ani becomes Rishon, and that Ani is Oisis Ayin. Al derech zagam ken Ani Acheren, Hainu Liyas Shisavas Shamayim V'eretz Gashmim and Amayim Eruchni, Eine derech Ishtalshlos Kim Yashmayim V'mebchines Sovev Kalam. The same is true Acheren. Acheren is the last stage of the evolution, which is the physical, not the Chachma, the physical. Also, it didn't come from what we call Hishtalshalus, that the divine utterance evolves and evolves and evolves and evolves and becomes physical. There's an element of Ein Sof, of a leap, that comes from Hashem himself, who's Kel Yachal, which is Sof of Kalam, which transcends all the worlds. V'lachein kol hamshachas tzarich liyas mehamakir shua ayin. So every real hamshacha in the world comes from a place of ayin, a place of no thingness, from the Boire to the Nivra. Even Ani Rishon is Ani Oisis Ayin. I am the Rishon, but that I you would call Ayin. I am the Acheren, but that Acheren you're going to call Ayin. So in order to access this flow, and especially the Shoshana, because then is the new energy for the whole year. So now the Avodah is always in the Sovev Kalaman of the soul. The Ayin is always Sovev Kalaman. That's what Sovev means. Sovev means pure Ein Sof, pure infinity. Yeah. So the Avodah is in the Sovev of the Nefesh. What's Pshat? V'zeu dafka idei tshuva. This is what tshuva is. Shakashara the Mosey nafshel Hashem. When a person aligns, surrenders their soul to God, Kamei Rebelezer ben Durdaya. The Gemara says in Avodah Zarah about Rebelezer ben Durdaya, he was a person. The Gemara says that there was no harlot that he didn't meet, and then he had Mesidus Nefesh. Shehu Mesidus Haratzim. Really, Mesidus Nefesh here is not just talking about physically. It's Mesidus Haratzim. It's surrendering the will. Al derech zal kol panim Mesidus Haratzim Lashem b'chol inyan yitzaynis hanefesh. In every person, it could be in a minimal way, with their own way, but a Mesidus Nefesh is the Ratzin li is battle. It's battle. Ritzayin chali is oitzem einov. Sometimes it's pashat closing your eyes. V'chein b'shmiya, or in hearing, or dibur, speaking. This is something I'm not going to listen to. It's not something I'm not going to say. V'chein lo yisasuru acharei levavchem. Bittul Ratzin kanal. Or v'chein b'asiyas toiv, bal karchach dafka, lasas hakal behepach ritzayin. Not to remain stuck in the comfort zone of what I'm comfortable with now, which is my mamale. But the nekuda of tshuva is to be able to transcend that. V'zel gamkin b'chinas Mesidus Nefesh. You say, that's Mesidus Nefesh, come on. Rebelezer ben Durdaya was ready to die. He's closing his ears, he's closing his mouth, he's doing something beyond his comfort zone. He says, yeah, because the Gemara says, Mali katla kula, Mali katla palga. What's the difference if you kill everything, you kill half? So sometimes transcending one taiva is katla palga. That's a b'chinas of Mesidus Nefesh. It's not quantitative. Shu iskafis et rachrei de leiv nishber v'nitka adam u'behema teshia she'asatz mika behema. The Gemara says adam u'behema teshia. When a person becomes like a behema, what's when a person becomes like a behema? they surrender and transcend their need for grasping and understanding. So that's the veloyachbetz beratzon v'tayvas gashmis k'masher kasav v'imcha lo chafatzti. The person doesn't remain connected only to what seems good. Tayvas gashmis says v'imcha, with you lo chafatzti, I want nothing. And then he says deeper, I know afilu mashe imcha, even that which is with you lo chafatzti. Hu ayedeya hu amadei v'garma yichad. V'imcha lo chafatzti literally means with you I want nothing else. He says no, even that which is with you, but it's not you I don't want. What's with you? Chachma, hu ayedeya, he's the knower, he's the knowledge, he's the known, he's one with his midas. So it's with him. Even the imcha, kim kala sheidi levavi, I love you is barach mamash. You want the full truth, I want you. Kamayim bechal kareinu, a love, so this if he says, a love eloy lemidosav. Mikol sheken v'kal v'chemer ritzayin es gashma. If even your midas I don't want you. For sure, I don't want physical, material stuff that are completely are at the surface not aligned with you. This is where the soul tunes into soiviv. By letting go of my will, I can touch the source, which is ayin, because the person goes into that place of ayin. Uksiv. So that's the nekud of b'chol ma'edecha. So the Alter Rebbe is describing here two types of love. There's the love of Maamar Kalam, there's the love of Soviv Kalam. One is B'chol Levavcha, B'chol Nafshecha, one is B'chol Meidecha. What's the difference? Maamar Kalam is the way the oil comes into a keli. It fills the world. And every creature gets filled in a different way. It's the energy that makes my brain to be my brain, with its unique chemistry. Every person has their own imprint of a Maamar Kalam. You're not me, I'm not you. Even if we share 50% of our DNA with a banana, but 50%, you're not a banana. 99% you share your DNA with a chimpanzee, but 1% you're not a chimp. Hopefully we focus on that 1% once in a while. And within each person themselves, you can have twins. They're similar in everything, but there's a unique imprint. Maamar Kalam is always diverse. Why? The ratzon trickles down to every chai. Every chai has its uniqueness. The table has its purpose and functionality. The chair has its purpose and functionality. The mic has its purpose and functionality. Hope it's working. Its functionality is working. And the cup has its purpose and functionality. And everything comes from a different nekud in the bria, which comes from a different inyan of asara mamaris. And that's why it's Maamar Kalam, and it fills. The soul too has Maamar Kalam, and that's the way the divine energy flows in and through the soul in a way that it contains it, it grasps it. And over there you talk about reasons. Because reason is about the world of structure. La'avas Hashem alakecha ki hu chayecha, because he is your life. You're asking me, why should I love? And I have a very good answer why you should love. Everybody loves life, and this is the reality. This is life. This is life. There's no other life. You're looking for life, this is life. Why should I love life? We're asking that question. But it's al pi seichel that a person loves life. It's al pi seichel a person loves life. That's you. So what's Maamar Kalam and Avodas Hashem? It's the way the person can become a channel and is a channel for the divine life that cruises through them, that fills them. He says it begins with seichel ubacharta b'chayim, and when there's when the seichel is open and there's a communication between the seichel and the body, there'll also be an ava. The body will respond to it. The heart will respond to it. Again, the heart will not respond to it if there's no seichel, meaning if I'm in a place of triggers and uptightness, there's no place for love. It's just danger. In danger, you don't love. That's the rule. Danger, you protect yourself. A person is chas v'shalom in a war zone. It's just a different state. The body goes into a different place, and you have to respect that. It's like an emergency state. But in the place of seichel, there could be midah. So that's Maamar Kalam. That's b'havta Hashem l'kecha b'chol levavcha b'chol nafshech. What's b'chol meidecha? He says this is a whole other thing. This is the soiviv of the soul. What's pshat the soiviv of the soul? As you said, chelek lekam imal. The soul is rooted in the Ein Sof. That's the Sasim Shabbat rooted in Sasim the Kodesh Bricha. This is Soviv, this is complete Ein Sof. Now the flow, how can a person have this? Why should I have it? Mamala Kalalman, I understand, I want to connect to my Metzias. Soviv is, I'm connecting to something beyond my Metzias. So Metzias is never going to tell you to go beyond Metzias. Seichel, as deep as Seichel is, it's always going to keep you within the world of Seichel. It's not going to transcend itself. It's like pulling yourself up from your hair. Trying to pull yourself up from your hair. Seichel, as much as he'll tell you, do this, it's always because the Seichel demands it. For Seichel to say to go beyond Seichel, you can't expect that from Seichel. Seichel is Metzias, it remains Metzias. So Mesiras Nefesh is a different inyan. It's that the soul experiences something that's beyond Seichel, beyond Tam V'das. And that's the deepest element of the soul. That's the Sasim, the Neshama. You'll say, why do you need this relationship? I don't have a why. It's not a why. It was created before there was a why. The why itself is part of creation. The question of why assumes that this part of me is post-logic. It precedes logic. So what do you want? So the why is you're just bothering me. You're not touching it. And in every person you see, there's certain elements, the deepest parts of a person's convictions or loves, etc. It's not based on seichel. At some point, this is who I am. Sorry, that's who I am.
Is marriage
Marriage also has two frequencies. We begin with mamale, but hopefully you graduate to soviv. If you get married l'mayla min haseichel, I know it happens, and sometimes it manages to work, and sometimes it's a disaster. Yeah. In other words, because marriage is about a relationship that the person ought to feel enriched from. That's called mamala kalam. Your seichel and midas can engage in this relationship, and over there you could speak about reasons. You could say why this person versus this person. But then a person is capable, once the mamala is safe, a person is capable of tuning in to a higher frequency where there's taka no reason. Not there's no reason because it's weak. There's no reason because it's stronger than a reason. A reason won't touch it because it touches the Ein Sof. The reason won't justify it. It's more powerful than it. And if you it's like, what is it called? You force the circle into the square, you force the square into the circle. You take Soviv, you put it into Seichel, you just lost the whole thing. The only frequency that works over there is Mesiras Nefesh. But that is the pleasure of the soul. It's happy to surrender everything. Why? Because as high as you go with with consciousness, you're never touching ayin. That's the whole nikud there. Hishtalshalus will go higher, and now you'll go from Asiya to Yitzirah to Briya to Atzilus, higher, and then you're going to get stuck. You're going to touch ayin. Boom. Mesiras Nefesh allows you to touch ayin. I don't exist. Gewaltig. As long as there's an I, Chachmei Allah, there's nothing higher than Chachmei Allah. It's the Chachma of Moshe Rabbi. It's the highest Chachma. Moshe was in tune with Chachmei Allah. The blueprint of Torah. Chachmei Allah is the wisdom of everything. Everything comes from Chachmei Allah. So that's also Me'ayin Tematzi. So through the Metzias of Chachma, you're not going to be Teufus Ayin. Hishtalshalus means I can always go back to the source. I just have to climb a ladder. From the tree, I go to the seed. From the seed, I go to the apple. From the apple, I go to the previous seed. From the seed, I go to the previous, till I get to the first tree that God created, the first apple tree that He created on first Tuesday. Any apple that you have today is an apple that was created on Tuesday. I know it took 5,784 years, but it's the same thing. The whole blueprint of this apple was in that first seed that He created on Tuesday by Adam Arish. Everybody is Adam and Chava. We call it generational trauma. Adam and Chava lived 5,785, almost 85 years ago. So what? It's your genes. You like it or not. Your great-great-great-great-great-great-grandmother lives inside of you. With all her milas and all her other stuff too. It's the cycle of existence, right? Either we stop the cycle or we continue it. Either we pass on dysfunction or we stop it. But it's all passing on. Nothing doesn't get passed on. Everything is in the genes. They call it epigenetics. All the trauma is in the genes, and also all the faith and the fortitude and the resilience and the survival mechanisms and the wisdom and the joy and the commitment. So you could identify, that's why you speak about Adam and Chava. Every person is Adam and Chava. It's literally, it's not just you're a product of your father and mother, it's a continuation. That's all Ishtalshalos. So if you climb up the ladder, in the last effect, in the first cause, you can identify the final effect. And in the final product, you can identify the first cause. That's Ilaval. That's all Ishtalshalos. And it's amazing how much you climb. Higher consciousness, more sensitivity. That's the whole Ishtalshalos. And that's why Ishtalshalos is so important. Because that's the ladder of human development, it's the ladder of Maamar Ki Karov. You start with the external, but if you go deeper, you find the deeper and the deeper and the deeper, and the more we're opened up, the more awareness we have of the life force of Maamar Ki Karov. But he says, but if you can get to the top, now you're touching ayin. Ayin is no Ishtalshalos. So here you need complete bittul. That's Mesidus Nefesh. There's not going to be a I don't have a reason for you. I don't have a reason. What should I tell you? The world of reason is part of Ishtalshalos. We're talking here, just like we spoke that there's something called beyond time. Before there was a before, because before there was a before, there was no before. There's also before there was logic. You say, yeah, but why? You're completely missing the point. It's not a why. And if I have a reason, it's not going to make it stronger. And if I have a question, it's not going to make it weaker. It's a relationship that's rooted in the highest frequency of ayin, which is not a frequency. I'm using again the word frequency, because frequencies means the way things relate to us, right? It transmits. It's all part of Ohr. Frequency is part of Ohr that's transmittable through Kalim. Here it's beyond Kalim. It's beyond Seichel. It's beyond the question of why on why, yeah. They say there was a professor, so he was teaching philosophy, and after everybody got their doctorate or whatever, there was the final exam to get your degree. So they prepared for months for this exam. You probably heard this story from me 25 years ago. So the professor prepared an exam. And everybody prepared for months. They thought it'll be, 300 questions, all the deepest philosophies. This professor was a clever guy, so they get the exam and had one question. And the question had one word, and the word was why. And that was a summation of 10 years of teaching them philosophy. One question, why? With a question mark. So everybody sat and filled out pages and pages and pages explaining, the logic and the ontology of cosmology and philosophy with Allah Maisis, all the chachmas. And everybody failed the exam. There were only 2 students who passed. One got an A and one got an A+. The one who got an A, he wrote, why? Because. So he got an A. The one who got an A+, he wrote, why not? Why? Why not? Yeah.
There was an A++ also. It says why?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, that's my name. Why? Why? Who says why is better than why not? But we decided, if it makes sense, it's a form of control. Now, sometimes it's deep control. It's not narcissistic. It could be even divine. It's a Ishtalshalos control, but it's control. Seichel always wants control. That's why it's looking for logic. It needs to fit into a picture, which is a beautiful thing. It's good when things fit in, but you have to understand that that's all a product of Ishtalshalos. In pure Ein Sof, the only keli for it is ayin. And that's the real ani. Ani oisis ayin. The real ani doesn't have a form. The real ani is ayin. That's why ani, which is ego, I, is really the letters of ayin. Because ego is a farce. It's never existed, never will exist. The deepest ego is ayin. You actually want to be? Then be not. I didn't prepare this, it just came in. You want to be, then be not. You want to be ani. Everybody, ani, ich. You're barking up the wrong tree. You're looking for ani, go to ayin over there. You'll be an ani. You'll be a real ani. Because you'll be rooted in the ultimate ani, which is all ayin. That's complete surrender. That's what Mesiras Nefesh is. Mesiras Nefesh is, he says, Reb Eliezer Ben Nai was ready to die. Sometimes a person is called for that, and it's a frequency of complete surrender, and it's incredible. But he says even Mesiras Haratzon, sometimes it's not listening to something, it's not saying something. It's going away from a certain taiva, or it's doing something that my comfort zone protests, but you just touch the frequency of ayin, which is the source of everything. And the Gemara says, Mali kotla kula, matli kotla palga. How do you know what death looks like? There could be a kotla kula, it could be a kotla palga. One nekuda of the shviras haratzon, that's Mesiras Nefesh. Why? Because you just went away from ishtalshlus. That's b'chol ma'odecha. Ma'odecha is ma'od. It's beyond kalim. It doesn't fit into kalim. There's no keli for it. And this touches the ayin, which is the cause, the core, the source of everything. And through hishtalshlus, I won't touch it, because the highest level of chachma, which is the highest level of seichel, which is divine, which is antu chakim v'lo b'chachmi yediyah, is also yesh legabe the ayin. Even though legabe yas chachma lo is also ayin, because it's divine wisdom. We also call it, but still, because you call it chachma, so it's already part of hishtalshlus. And hishtalshlus means it's part of a chain. And the boide is heipech hanevrayim. This is the line in this Maamar. Ha-boide hu heipech hanevrayim. Sha-boide hu heipech hanevrayim. So even chachma cannot come from dibur shalamayla without a kleep, without an ein sof leap. That's even chachma. Never mind gashmias. So you say, but Hashem said, "Let there be light." But what we call the physical property of light, or water, or earth, or anything, the gashmias should come from the divine energy. Even the lowest level of divine energy, it's an ein sof dekalip. It's not ilav Allah. That's why we call it ayin. And that's the ani. Ani rishon, v'ani acherin. For there to be a rishon, you need ayin. For there to be an acherin, you need ayin. Rishon is chachmei la, acherin is gashmis. Because that's the final incarnation of divine energy. Maamar Ki Karov is different. Maamar Ki Karov works in ishtalshlus. Because what's Maamar Ki Karov? Maamar Ki Karov is the way the divine energy assumes the physical veneer. Yeah, God's energy assumes the physical veneer. That's what he says. From the pnei shor of the Merkava comes the consciousness of an animal, of an ox. Now, how could you compare an angel to a behemoth here? But you could. Because if you take the consciousness and you go back up a ladder and you go back, you'll see that the consciousness of your animal is really the consciousness of a malach. And that's the value of ishtalshlus, because that's how you develop character. If anybody looks at the drives of their animal soul, right, it could sometimes look like it's very base, or very even ugly, or promiscuous, or just disturbing, or weird, or full of anxiety, whatever it is. But if you go back, if you go with ishtalshlus, you take it back. Where did this come from? Where did this come from? Give me the seed. Where did this tree, where did this emotion come from? You go to the seed, and then you say, where did the seed come from? And you go back to the first tree. In Gan Eden, you'll see that this taiva of the Nefesh Abamas is really a very holy taiva. It just went through a whole ishtalshlus until it became a taiva, or a feeling that is very, very disturbing and distracting. But that's what it means to transform. That's transformation of ishtalshlus. That's why there's the ava b'chol avavcha b'chol nafshecha. So it's really, it's incredible, because there's really two aspects of life. There's tuning into the flow of life that flows through you in a way of Maamar Ki Karov, and this is what you hold on to. This is what you could contain. That's why it's me. That's why it's you. And everybody has a different flow of life. The way God is flowing through you is not the way He's flowing through me. That's why your personality is your personality. Your challenges are your challenges. Your blessings are your blessings. And that's the first thing. La'avas Hashem alekecha ki hu chayecha. This is the only life you're going to have. Anywhere else you're going to look for life, you're going to find death, not life. May you not see it this year, you'll see it in 10 years, but it's going to be death. La'avas Hashem alekecha ki hu chayecha. Anything that's not a lakus is not life. Why? Because it never existed, it never will exist. The only existence is Einoid Malvadai, and everything is a result of that. So if you tune into that, lakus, you're finding life. If you tune into anything else, you're looking for distractions, and it's going to be disappointing. So So I could dreizich, I could run here, I could run there, I could run to the other end of the universe like Yoina to run away from God, but in the stomach of the whale, ultimately I'll also find God. Can leifen and leifen and leifen and leifen and leifen and leifen, right? Milifnei Hashem u'bereach, but ultimately there's only kiyuchet, there's only one frequency of life. There's no two sources of life. It's not like the chocolate cake or the cheesecake has its own source of life. The chocolate is divine and the cheese is divine. So either you tune into the life of the cheese and the life of the chocolate, and then you probably will eat a little less of it. Or I tune into the death of it and then I'll eat a lot of it, but I'm completely detaching myself from my own source of life. That's all mamala kalalman. And then there's the nekud of b'chol meidecha, the nekud of tshuva. The nekud of tshuva, that's mesidus nefesh. Mesidus nefesh is the ability to be able to go into a place of ayin. The place of ayin is where the ani, literally, death of ego, even death of spiritual ego. Even the death of a spiritual ego. I'm not going to hold on to anything, because anything I hold on to is a formulation of reality that is post-ishtalshalos. And it's very important, the world of ishtalshalos, it's important to respect that flow. But tshuva is the ability to be able to touch something completely beyond it. And that's complete surrender. That's mesidus nefesh. What does mesidus nefesh look like practically? He says sometimes nobody even knows it, but you know it. As he puts it here, sometimes it's closing my eyes, sometimes it's about what I'm listening to, sometimes it's what I'm saying, sometimes it's what I'm craving, and sometimes it's doing something behepech ritzayna. Mali kat lekula, mali kat lepalga. In a way, I go into a place of a behemoth. I could say I'm like a behemoth now. This is v'imcha lo chafatzti. I don't desire anything besides you. I don't even desire, that's the word in this mind, I don't even desire that which is with you. V'imcha. So Alter Rebbe is a taich. Usually v'imcha lo chafatzti in Tehillim means with you I don't want anything. He says, no, I don't even want what's with you. I want you. Chachma is with you. Midas are with you. Iyu v'garma yichad. I want you. I don't want your midas. He says, Kol sheken, you don't want Nitzaynas Gashma. You don't want God's midas, for sure you don't want Stam physical. Even Hashem's midas don't impress him. That's the famous word Alter Rebbe used to say, I don't want your Gan Eden Alien, I don't want your Gan Eden Atachna, I don't want your Olam Haba, I don't want your Olam Haba. I want Dich. It's not that he didn't know what Olam Haba is. If anybody knew what Olam Haba it was a Balatanya, trust me, he knew what Olam Haba is. But he knew what Olam Haba is. So it's not like he doesn't want Olam Haba. Where does he want to be? The point is, I don't want anything to be a distraction from the ayin. Olam Haba can also be a distraction. It's a nice distraction. It's not such a bad distraction.
Why do we want so high?
You heard your words? Why do we want so high? Just pay my mortgage for the month. I'm happy with a mortgage. Right. Right. So I don't have an answer to you. The moment you started the question with the word why, you lost me. The truth is, it's only here where the soul comes to life, really comes to life. Everything else is a distraction. You see, you started to smile. First you asked why. The moment you stopped asking why, you got it. It resonates. This is the only place the soul taka has tchiyas hamesim. This is the ani. Ani oisis ayin. As long as I stay outside of ayin, I'm just... It's in the ayin. That's where everything is. That's where everything is. Because it's the source. So he says the whole Rosh Hashanah. So now he comes to the whole Rosh Hashanah is what? It's a chayis coming from ayin. So the only way we access that chayis is if we become ayin. As long as I'm in a place of ishtalshalos, I'm not accessing ayin. I can access from a higher place of consciousness, which is nice. You open yourself up to more wisdom, to more flow. But the ayin is a quantum leap, as we say. And Rosh Hashanah is a new chayis from coming from ayin, from soivev, not memali, from soivev to memali, but from soivev. That's why it's l'mayla min hazman. That's why zeh hayom chilas masach. The whole day is created today. The whole concept of today is today. Rosh Hashanah is not just today is the day of creation. It's also the creation of today, of the very concept of today, which is ishtalshalus, time. Ishtalshalus works always in time, either time the way we understand time or a higher level of time, but time is always A previous moment brings to a next moment, to a next moment, to a next moment. There's sequence, there's a linear flow. That's ishtalshalos, a higher, a lower, etc. One thing comes after the other, whether it's in time or the concept of time. 1 plus 2 equals 2. 2 minus 1 equals 1. Which rule came first? There was never a time that 1 plus 1 equaled 2 and 2 minus 1 equaled 1, as far as I know. But in philosophy, it's called kedima v'ichur. This comes before this. Doesn't mean it comes, this was 9 o'clock and this is 9:01. It means 2 minus 1 equals 1 can't make sense if 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2. You understand? I have to teach a child first, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Now that they know that 2 comes from 2 ones, they can understand the result is that if you take 1 from 2, you're back to 1. So it's not a difference in time in terms of time, what we call time, but it's a difference, it's called kedima v'ichur. This is the foundation or the paradigm or the precedent. This is the antecedent. This is the seed for the tree. And any intellectual idea, you have to create the foundations and then you build on it. If there's no foundations, they call it muskel rishons, the paradigms. What are the paradigms upon? And if you destroy the paradigm, ultimately you can destroy anything. You always have to go to a muskel rishon. So the whole ishtalshlus is based on that. There's chachma, there's bina. But that's not an ayin. So b'meila Rosh Hashanah, he says, that's the avodah of tshuva, it's the avodah of ayin. Because it's the hamshacha from the soiv of kalalman, which the soul, the frequency of the soul that gets that is beyond frequency. It's the sosim of the neshama. That's why we call it the secret of the soul. Secret of the soul doesn't mean you don't talk about it. You could talk about it, it's still a secret. Because words, reasons, explanations won't capture it, so it remains a secret. A secret is not if you say it or you don't. You could say it as many times as you want. It stays a secret. It's by definition a secret because it's not in kalim. It's not something you can experience through logic, through words. It's a completely experiential dimension of the soul, which is lamayla me'atam, and I can't explain it. I can't prove it to you, and I can't give reasons for it. Because any reason that I'm going to give for it is never going to capture what I'm saying, because that's going to be defined and confined to the world of reason. It's only experiential. The other ava is an ava that also has seichel, and the experience comes from seichel. Here it's all experiential. Yeah. It's also experiential, but the experience is not one in which I'm experiencing. It's an experience of ani, which goes into ayin.
So how is it experience?
Sometimes it's experienced in closing your eyes. Sometimes it's experienced. The Baal Shem Tov says somewhere that sometimes the whole avodas Hashem is dealing with one thought. The experience doesn't look dramatic necessarily. It's a nakud of ayin. It's complete letting go. And the soul knows it. It's Mesidus Nefesh.
Different vibration.
A completely different vibration.
On the level of there's no free will because in a way we let it go.
You let go.
So there's no free
The ani and the ayin become one. Yeah, it's not bachar to b'chaim. It's not like think about it and then you'll choose. There's nothing to think about. Now, we need mamali before we go to Soiviv. If you destroy your shtalshalus too early, it's very dangerous. You understand why? Because then it's not Soiviv. Then it's not ani oisis ayin. It's a fake ani. It's a fake ani, and therefore it's a fake ayin too. It's an ayin that becomes the biggest distraction from my fears and insecurities. Because it's a great distraction. Oh, Soiviv Kalalman, God is everything. Oh, great bypassing. You bypass everything. And once you bypass everything, you're not touching ayin. I'm just running wherever I could. So this one has this distraction. I have a good spiritual distraction. But it's a terrible distraction. And the way you'll see it is, there's no love there. There's no calmness. There's a deeper anxiety that gets more ayin in order to numb me from that anxiety. In real ayin, there's no anxiety. There's a complete surrender. There's no anxiety there. The body is in. I'm fine. I'm there. Because it's real ayin. So that's why you always, mamale is the prerequisite for soiviv. Okay, let's learn another 5 minutes because I want to finish the Maamar. It's just this paragraph. You hear the chavre. This is the nekudas. That's the whole Maamar is one binyan. So it starts off with Mesasam Galia, Soiva Mamali. He goes into Hayom. He goes into Kutchabrichu, Rosh Hashanah, Torah, Neshamas. So now he comes back. What this means in Avodah, the two levels of Ava. So he says, "V'zel koide v'ksiv kodev Hashem l'chol kodev be'emes." V'zel koide b'Torah. We call learning koide b'Torah. Shekoide lahamakar liyisnimshich b'Torah. Koide b'Torah literally means reading the Torah, but really means calling something into Torah. You're calling the Ein Sof, the source, to come into Torah. It says in Zohar, Torah comes from Chachma. V'hachachma me'ayin timatzeh. V'aydei mesidus nefesh mamshich me'hamakar. V'chol ma shaloymed v'koirei achar kach hu nikra Torah l'shma l'shem ha'Torah shemamshich ha'ara me'hamakar l'Torah. What does real Torah l'shma mean? L'shma for the sake of Torah. Torah itself is Chachma. When a Jew learns Torah with this ayin, with mesidus nefesh, he brings the Ein Sof into Torah, so he elevates the Torah kavayach. He brings something into Torah. That's real. Koirei b'Torah. You're calling the Ein Sof into Torah. You're inviting the Ein Sof into Torah. He's connecting the Lamayla me'azman into the Zman of Torah. V'zel v'asisem oisam. Al tikra oisam, the Zohar says, ala atem. Shenikra asiyas ha-mitzvahs, v'loi kiyam belvad, kiyam asiyam mechadush, v'bchinas ispashtas ha-mechaya kol ha'olamas. It says, v'asisem oisam, the Zohar says, don't only commit them, you make them. V'asisem atem. You make the mitzvah. You make the mitzvah. You don't only fulfill it, you make it. You recreate it by bringing the ayin into the world. That's what the mitzvah essentially is. So the Jew makes the mitzvah. The soiviv of the neshama creates the mitzvah, which is the ispashtos from the soiviv into the mamala. Just like in Torah. Torah l'shma, he brings into Torah the Ein Sof into Torah. He reveals the Ein Sof in Torah. It's not just to fulfill it, it's to make it. To reprocess it, to be it mamshich, to generate its flow again from the source, which is beyond any structure. By the Musaf of Rosh Hashanah, b'chinas la'asoisei. It says the soul, his name is exalted. It says in Pirkei Rebbe, before the world was created, it was only him and his name. A name is not the essence, like by a person. Your name, Reuven, Shimon, Levi, whatever it is, it's a ray from the person, but it's not going to, you can say the name doesn't capture the essence of the person. In fact, if you were there yourself, you don't need a name. A name is the way I relate to you. So it's the way you're transmitted to somebody. It's the way you're perceived. That's what a name is, like your reputation. The Gemara says, so the Olam Haba says is a Yud, then Olam Haza comes from the Hey. The Gemara says a Menachas Chavtes. This is all his name. But Vayidei Mesidus Nefesh Umamshach V'Pchidus Soiv V'Tshemagia Ad HaMaker. Mesidus Nefesh means the surrender of the soul. Here you go to the Soiv, which is you touch the source, not just the name, but the source. So the word is anoichi, this mitzvah that I, anoichi mamish. What's anoichi? This is the essence. This mitzvah comes from anoichi, and that's why you la'asoisa, you create it, because it's coming from anoichi. The first is through beficha, which is Torah. As we said before, Torah l'shma. Then there's B'levavcha hu tshuva, B'ficha B'levavcha, the heart. V'zeu la'asoise pirush shezeu sha'oise mamash kavayachal b'chinas dibure v'loi kiyam b'lvad. You create the word. You don't just fulfill it. You create it. Oise dvare. La'asoise, you make it. Ke'inyan vayaz David Shem. It says David made a name for himself. So the Zohar says it means he created the name of Yud Kei Vavke. Vayaz David, he made the Shem. The only time it says Vasisem Oila. Ki Rosh Hashanah utchilas ma'asecha. Rosh Hashanah is the beginning. Sha'oisim u'boinim b'chinas dvarei yizbarach. Rosh Hashanah, you build kevayachal Hashem's words. The mamala kalalman, the energy that flows into the world, has to be built. It has to be made. V'hainu mehamakar shehu ayin. It's not a natural flow. The source is ayin. So for ayin to become dibur, which becomes davar, that's created. Vasisem oil, that has to be made from the ayin. And that's why Rosh Hashanah, the main avodah is not words. Why is the main avodah not words? Because the words themselves have to be created. The words themselves need help. That's why the avodah of Rosh Hashanah is not even a cry. Like we spoke Shabbos, the avodah is the shofar of an animal. Because any words, even a cry, which is an expression of some inner feelings or emotions, can take me back to the place of ayin, from which everything comes. Everything has to be rebuilt. Ein kateger nasa saneger. The words themselves need help. The shofar of a behema, l'chayr, is the furthest from the person. No, it's seifim b'tchilasan. That goes back to the ayin. It's not expressing anything from character. It's the shofar of an animal. It's the simplicity, like he said before, Adam behema teshiyah Hashem. That mesidus nefesh to the ayin, that starts the process. That recreates everything from anew. V'zel Shem Rebbe Malchi, as we say in the bracha Koyam, Hashem tzvayis Melech Yisrael v'goyaloi ani rishon ani acharon. In the brachas of Malchus and Rosh Hashanah, how does it end? When you make Hashem Melech, so we say this pasuk, Koyam Hashem tzvayis Melech Yisrael ani rishon ani acharon. Ani Oisius Ayin is creating Rishon. Ani Oisius Ayin is creating Acharon. That's Rosh Hashanah. Zayim Tchilas Masach. V'gam Pirush Lash says Derech Masher Chassid B'Zer Parshas Vayera. Vayas Hashem l'Sar Asiya Ilu Le'ela. Vaynakum Misham Nimshach Gam Ken Liyas Asiya Vayisavus Yesh Meyayin Shezel Mel Mailam Mish Talshalos. This is the place where you create the asiyah, the creation of yesh meyayin outside of ishtalshalos v'hainu. Aydei ve'im chaloi chafatzti. This is the avodah. With you I desire nothing else. Hashem pirush chayfetz what shuka hapnim is. The word chayfetz is not like ratzon. Ratzon is a person wants. Chayfetz is your innermost desire. It's called chayfetz. Pnimi hatshuka hapnimis. V'hainu aydei sheyizboinen. When a person meditates, shekola olam esurak b'chinas man. All the worlds are all in a realm of time. It's only time. Which is essentially one ray. All the ilamas, all reality that we try to control and understand and grasp, it's all one ray, because it's all in Zman. We said before, Shem is l'mayla min hazman. So the whole experience of time, 50,000 yovlis, it's all one ray, it's all one machshava of Hashem, that's Zman. So it's like non-existent legabe, the essence which is beyond Zman. Like the ray of the sun in the solar core. You have the ray, but it's completely subsumed. It's like your breath when it's still inside of you. Your breath is there, but I don't say, oh, I see you and I see your breath. Your breath is all inside of you. It's kaloi chashav. So b'meila, this creates v'im chaloi chafatzti. So the only real place to hang out is in the place of ayin. What are you going to go into that one machshava of Zman? Ayin is the place to be. That's why this 10 Yemei Tshuva, sheyesh eses svidas benefesh ha'adam. Why 10 days? There's 10 characteristics in a person's soul. Gimel sichlim v'zayin midas. There's 3 faculties of the mind, chachma bin das. And then there's the 7 emotions, the way the mind translates into emotions, as we explained, the way it's actually experienced, an emotion. So 10 days, is each of them ought to be sublimated. It's a gift to sublimate each of them to the source. And that's what tshuva is. And we explained what's tshuva, to go from b'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshecha, to b'chol meidecha. Ad Yom Kippurim shol l'mayla k'diksiv lifnei Hashem titaru, till Yom Kippur, which is the 10th day, and it says by Yom Kippur ki b'yom hazeh yichaper aleichem mekol chateseichem l'tayresem lifnei Hashem titaru. We read it on Yom Kippur. What's lifnei Hashem titaru? Literally, it means before God you will be cleansed. It says lifnei Hashem means before Yud Kei Vav Kei. In other words, higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei. Lifnei Hashem, that's where you'll be cleansed. So you go to a place that precedes Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey, because that's Ishtalshalos. Yud is Chachma, and then you go downwards. This is Lifnei Hashem. From there comes all the Tara. All the distortion only can happen in Ishtalshalos. In the place of Ayin, there's no distortion. That's why it's the place of bliss. That's why the soul wants to be there. That's the real Ani. Over there, there's pure cleansing. But if I bypass my personality, it's going to be a joke. So you need Aseres Yemei Tshuva. The Yemei Tshuva is every day you're bringing up one of the characteristics back to the source. You don't just say, go to Yom Kippur. Aseres Yemei Tshuva is really a microcosm. I need to work with my Malchus and my Yesod. Right? Malchus is my confidence, and Yesod is my attachment, and Netzach is, and Hoid is my humility, and Netzach is my victory, my ambition. And Tiferes is my empathy, and Gvura are my boundaries, and Chesed is my kindness, and Das is my prefrontal cortex application, and Bina is my comprehension, Chachma is my insights, my awareness, my curiosity. Each one of these are real frequencies of the soul. It's all Maamar Ki Karov. This is the way God's energy comes into Midas. This is V'imcha, Iyu V'garmai. So just to say, Lo chafatzti, what do you hate yourself? So that's the tshuva, is to return it, to be able to help them all work themselves through to a place of ayin. It's only if they're feeling safe. If they're not feeling safe, they can't go to ayin, because they have to hold on tighter. I'm not letting go of anything. You can't even get to B'charta B'chaim, the first level. The first level you need safety. Certainly the ayin. Only when there's a healthy ani can there be a healthy ayin. Ani oisius ayin. It all depends on each other. If there's an ani, there could be an ayin. The real ani is ayin, but there also has to be an ani, because if there's no ani, if you're going to ayin because you feel like a unworthy, shameful, despicable shmata, it's not ayin. It's called shmata. Ani oisius shmata. That's why ani is oisius shmata in some gematria. We have to ask Mr. Gar. In Aramaic, mixed with Arabic and Mandarin, it comes out to a gematria of shmata. You understand? Ani could become ayin, but the real ani is taka ayin. So the Aseres Yemei Tshuva is coming to Yom Kippur, which is Lifnei Hashem Titaru, v'hainu aydei tshuva. And he finishes with derech prat yesh b'tshuva gam ken beis madregas tshuva tata, tshuva ilah. It says in Zohar there's two levels of repentance, a lower and a higher. Tshuva, what's the difference? It says, now we'll understand. Tshuva tatoi b'b'chinas mamali shebenefesh. The first level of tshuva, the basic level, it's always working with the mamale aspect of the soul. The way the divine energy is contained in the characteristics of Hainu b'machshava, dibur, ma'isa, nimshachim, me'aseichel, u'midas, lekashran, kulon, elav yizbarach, kol echad l'fiyarka. I have to work with my thoughts, my words, my behaviors, and they always come from seichel, from awareness, from midas, from emotions. Behaviors, words, thoughts are coming from somewhere. They're not living in a vacuum. So my triggers, I get triggered by you, by somebody, right? My thoughts now go crazy. My words express that. My behaviors express it. So it's really working with mamala. Yeah, it's working with what's coming up for you and holding space and tuning into it. Lekashron kula, and I love you, bringing them all back to God. Every person according to Erkin, every person is different, because your triggers are not my triggers. Your insecurities are not my insecurities. Your idiosyncrasies are not my idiosyncrasies. That's why Chazal say, what's love with all your heart? Both your inclinations. You got to work with both of them. Your divine soul, your animal soul, Yetzer Tov, Yetzer Hara. Because this is Mamalika. Mamalika is, it's a shtalshalus. Even my animal soul's instincts are coming from somewhere. Like we said, the face of the ox comes from the Merkava. So you could work with it. Ubechol nafshecha, this is with all your soul. That's all tshuva tata. So tshuva tata is actually working with inner real development. Achin tshuva lo b'chinas soiviv shebenefesh, b'chinas b'chol moedach. So when we say Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad, this results in vahafta. There's vahafta Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, u'b'chol moedecha. From the B'chol Ma'idech, there's Hayoim, the new day. Ach Tshuvei Lo B'chinas Soiviv Shebenefesh. Tshuvei Lo is Soiviv Kalam. Tshuvei Lo is a place where you're never separate. Tshuvei Lo means I have to do tshuva for the fact that I think I have to do tshuva. It's a different type of tshuva. Because in reality you're one. In Ani Oisis Ayin, in Mesiris Nefesh, tshuva means you revealed that you were always connected. You revealed that in this place there was never separateness. There can't be separateness. That's a different type of tshuva. Tshuva is going back to the true core of Ani Oisis Ayin. You're not fixing anything. Tshuva tata, there's repair. There's a lot of repair. There's grief, there's repair, there's working through things. Tshuva law is going to a place where there's no repair. It's complete oneness, complete intimacy. So you could think this is not shaykh to you. So this is what the pasuk is saying. That's how he started the Maamar. Ha-mitzvah hazo is this mitzvah. Loi nefleisi mimcha. Maamar Ki Karov is not hidden from you. V'loi rechoikehi. And even soivav is not distant. Jacobson Ki Karov elecha adova ma'oid. What's ma'oid? He teaches here. B'chol ma'oidchach. Alter Rebbe teaches. Karov elecha adova ma'oid. The ava of b'chol ma'oidecha is Karov elecha. Usually everybody says ma'oid means it's very close to you. He says, no, the ma'oid is close to you. You would think that the ava of b'chol avavcha, b'chol nafshecha meila. But b'chol ma'oidecha, what to do with me? Ayin says, Karov elecha adova, the ma'oid, the b'chol ma'oidecha is also close to you. K'niskalel b'firish v'loi rechoikehi, like he said in the beginning. That loy nifle says mamale and loy rechoike is soiviv, elamai ki Karov elecha, it's close to you. In a way, it's even closer to you because there's no separation over there. Just a different type of closeness. The closeness of a Maamar Ki Karov is in your kalim, and here it's beyond the kalim. But it's Karov elecha. The ma'oid is also close to you, and when that is experienced, then there's beficha. It's a different type of limud Torah. Belvavcha and la'asoisa, you make the mitzvah. So Melech Shoshana, which is a new flow of life, Zahayom Tchilas Masecha, is always about going to the ayin, the source of everything. We have what to work with. Let me take the opportunity to wish everybody here, or everybody who's listening and everybody here, a blessed year materially and spiritually, a year of bracha and hatzlacha ad blidai, menuchas hanefesh, menuchas haguf, harchavas hadas, sayin memale, sayin soiviv, sayin ani, sayin ayin, and in the fusion of both. And Hashem should fulfill all of your heart's desires. Everybody, as he says, lefi erkai, whether health, happiness, prosperity, nachas, harchavas hadas, menuchas hanefesh, harchav gashmias, harchav ruchnias, and all your challenges should be transformed. Adversity should be transformed into blessings, and everybody should be able to experience a year of true bliss and goodness and delight and wholeness and alignment, dveikus, real dveikus. And thank you to everybody who's here for the opportunity to be able to learn the Sasam Deiraisa together, you know. Now you understand what it means that the Sasam Deiraisa connects the Sasam of the Neshama to the Sasam of Kodesh Brichu. There's two frequencies, you know, of Torah. There's the Galia and then there's the Sasam. So it's like it touches different aspects. L'poyel, everything has to become one because it's really one. That's the whole Nekuda. So thank you for the opportunity, and Hashem should help that the light of Torah, the light of Pnimis Torah should be able to permeate our bones, our nervous systems, our bodies, our souls, the Nefesh HaLekiz, the Nefesh HaBahamis, so that we can radiate it to ourselves, and then automatically it gets radiated to everybody around us, and it heals the world. Umallah Aretz Deis Hashem Kamayim Le'am Achasim. And as I said, Shabbos, you know, who ends up at the shir? Somebody once told me that there's a certain genre of people that end up at the shir. So the person didn't mean it in a complimentary way. But I'm going to give I'm going to give the real explanation. The explanation is every person who ends up here is handpicked by the Alter Rebbe. That's the truth. Why? I don't know why. This is things Hashem Matov Chalkenim Anoim Goyraleinu. Everyone has a shlichus, but part of the reason is not just for themselves, also to bring it to others. That's the klal, to bring it to others. So thank you for being part of this incredible journey of Dveikus with Hashem and with Yiddishkeit and with Emes and with the Torah of Geula. And since the end of the year is ending already on a high note from all the miracles of the last few days, so we should only see more and more and more. And the truth is that the year started off with Jews, as I said, Mitzvah Shabbos, Jews broken and depressed and anxious for good reason. It was the worst year in Jewish history since the Holocaust, in terms of grief and death and brokenness and tragedy, and still with all the hostages and everybody, all the wounded. At the end of the year, the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Shana Shehirasha B'tchilasa Misasheres B'Seifa. A year that's impoverished in the beginning becomes wealthy at the end, because it says Mereshis Hashana without an aleph, Reshis, ad Achris Shana. So the Gemara says a year that begins with Reshis, poverty, Misasheres B'Seifa. So Rashi says a year when people make themselves poor, they make themselves humble, is wealthy at the end, Bittel. But this year you don't need Rashi's interpretation. It's a year that the Jewish people were really impoverished in the beginning. Misasheres B'Seifa, the last few days, Jews, especially in Eretz Yisrael, are walking. Their posture has been restored somewhat. Dancing in the streets when they heard Nasrallah, the Hitler of today, was killed, and all the other Nasrallahs that were eliminated recently. So it's the beginning of, Hashem should help. We should see that this new tide of miracles should take us into the new year. Should be the Dan Natzach, a complete victory and complete elimination of Tumah. The world is now cleaner with Nasrallah's death and Henya's death. The ear is, I don't know if you could smell these things, but whenever evil is eliminated, the ear of the world becomes a little cleaner. The toxicity is removed. Esruach HaTumah Avim Min Haaretz is Mashiach, that the Tumah will be gone. There won't be room. Now there's room for Tumah to live. When the ear becomes clean, there's no room for Tumah. It becomes like allergic. It's also true with people, when they become more refined, like there's no room for Tumah. It's like, get out of it. You start vomiting it. Unfortunately, in our system, there's still a lot of room for Tumah. Dysfunctionality becomes so common and embedded that people think that's normal. But that's sickness. It's part of the sickness. It's part of what you need to heal from. So we should see Vesruach HaTumah Avim Min Haaretz should be a Dan Natzach and a complete redemption. Alidei Mashiach Tzedkeinu, take it from Mayad Mamash. A good gebenched year, everybody. Be'ezer Hashem will have a shir. I'll see you next year, as they say. Tavshin Pei Hey. We'll have a shir Monday morning. That's in a week. I'm not here. No, I'm not here. I'm not here for Rosh Hashanah. I'm going to be back Sunday. So Monday morning, 7:45. Well, Baruch Hashem, we finished the Maim. I'm very happy. I'm sorry for the late hour. And I'll make up for the week. So Monday we'll start a new Maimer. I know who you are. No, you were here last time. I know Lepoil the Cipher sent somebody, so I didn't need. No worries. Huh? Say that. Gewaldig. Stop in a good gebenched jar. Oh, you did it, Amen, Gamata. Okay. Verstehe. Oh. Gamata, a good gebenched jar.
Moment,